Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. Thank you so much for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. Little old me with this channel, with this Ignition Time channel, I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of having your time. I do believe that your time is the most important thing that you have because all of us, whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, President Trump, we only have 24 hours in a day. So your time is important. I appreciate you. You are no longer a community. You are like family. Let's just jump right in. In this video, I'll dig a little deeper into the stimulus negotiations. I'll tell you what's likely to happen, and I'll actually dig deeper into the airlines part of this. A lot of you are thinking, hey, what do the airlines have to do with this? The airlines have a lot to do with this because a lot of jobs are being lost in swing states. Specifically, let's talk about Philadelphia for a second. Thousands of jobs are being lost in Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania is an important swing state with 20 electoral votes that President Trump won in 2016. And a majority of polls right now are suggesting that former Vice President Joe Biden is leading in Pennsylvania. In this video, I'll talk to you about where the stimulus negotiations are right now. I'll talk to you about why there's so much of an emphasis on Airlines Aid, so much so that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and US Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin actually spoke at 9:30 a.m. today in order to possibly do a standalone Airline Aid bill. And then I'll tie all the pieces in together and tell you what this has to do with the upcoming election. Once again, thank you for visiting my channel. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. Check out my video. You'll learn about me. I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. You'll learn about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Let's start by taking a look at a tweet from Mitt Romney, who said, Pelosi wants feds to borrow $400 billion to bail out states. Better idea, let states borrow money themselves, perhaps with a federal guarantee to secure favorable terms, because states need money. That's what this is all about. That's why the talks basically broke down. And seniority, which means some states could possibly get more money than others, depending on potentially the economic activity and other factors. Break the stalemate, get a deal done. This is critical for unemployed, small business, and the economy. I couldn't agree more. In fact, you'll see another tweet on your screen from Lindsay McPherson, and she's a senior House reporter at Roll Call, and she said, she actually quoted Speaker Pelosi, who said, it's hard to see any clear, sane path on anything that he's doing. Speaker Pelosi was talking about President Trump and the fact that President Trump ended stimulus talks. But then Speaker Pelosi did indeed point out that the president is calling for standalone aid for airlines, paycheck protection program, as well as stimulus checks. And so Speaker Pelosi said, but the fact is that he saw the political downside. All he has ever wanted to do in the negotiation is to send out a check with his name printed on it. That's what Speaker Pelosi said. He's just again rebounding from a terrible mistake that he made yesterday, and the Republicans in Congress are going down the drain with him on that. Incredible statements from House Speaker Pelosi.
Basically to bring financial aid to millions of Americans who are desperately in need of money. But yesterday, Trump threw all of that into disarray by abruptly calling off the negotiations until after the election. Then, I'm not done with this. Then late last night, he backtracked and he said he would sign bills for the stimulus checks and only to help airlines and small businesses. What exactly is he up to, Nancy? What's going on?
Well, it's hard to see any clear, sane path on anything that he's doing. But the fact is that he saw the political downside of his statement of walking away from the negotiations to honor our heroes, our healthcare workers, first responders, teachers, transportation, sanitation, food workers who make our lives possible. And he walked away from the opportunity to crush the virus so that we could open our schools and our economy safely. And he walked away from putting money in the pockets of the American people in a way that will make a difference in his lives. It's interesting that he said he'd send out those checks if we just sent him that bill, because all he has ever wanted in the negotiation was to send out a check with his name printed on it. Forget about the virus, forget about our heroes, forget about our children and their need to go to school safely and the rest. So he's just, again, rebounding from a terrible mistake that he made yesterday. And the Republicans in Congress were going down the drain with him on that.
In fact, here's what's going on right now. House Speaker Pelosi and US Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin have discussed a standalone airline bill. They spoke at 9:30 a.m. this morning, and they decided that they would work towards a standalone airline bill after the president pulled out of the broader stimulus negotiations. House Speaker Pelosi spokesperson Drew Hamill said the secretary inquired about a standalone airlines bill. The speaker reminded him that the Republicans blocked the bill last week and asked him to review the DeFazio bill, and I'll talk to you about that in just a second, so that they could have an informed conversation. Basically, the Trump administration is trying to pass an airline bill right now, and the House Transportation Committee Chairman Peter DeFazio last week on Friday had attempted to pass an extension of expiring aid for airlines on the floor of the House by unanimous consent, but Republicans objected, saying that they had not been consulted. And this legislation would have provided more than $28 billion for airlines and contractors if they held off on layoffs until March 31st, 2021. What is happening right now is that they're focusing on airlines aid, but the truth is everyone needs help. The truth is a stimulus check is needed, unemployment benefits extension are needed, paycheck protection program is needed. There's a lot of help needed across the economy, across different sectors of the economy. In fact, you'll see this tweet on your screen from Jeff Stein, who says that the Trump administration confirms that the White House is pushing for a standalone bill on the airlines. And I'll actually tell you why they're pushing for a standalone bill on the airlines. And House Speaker Pelosi's office seems open to it because they did talk about that this morning. Now, keep in mind, a package for the airlines is not going to include aid for the millions of unemployed. It's not going to include aid for restaurants. It's not going to include the paycheck protection program. It's not going to include stimulus checks. It's not going to include money for schools. That's unfortunately where things stand right now. And on your screen, again, you'll see the tweet from Drew Hamill, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Speaker Pelosi. He confirmed that Speaker Pelosi and US Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin spoke at 9:30 a.m. this morning, and the Secretary is inquiring about a standalone airlines bill. In other words, the administration, through the US Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, wants to do a standalone airlines bill to help the airline industry. And again, you'll see why they're pushing for this and why this is so important for both sides from a political standpoint. Again, I'm sorry to report this, but this should be about economics and helping people. But this is about politics, it's about timing, it's about opportunity. That is actually what is going on right now. And again, Drew Hamill said the speaker reminded him that Republicans blocked that bill on Friday. So think about this. This is very ironic. The Republicans blocked a bill last Friday, and US Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin comes to Speaker Pelosi and says, we need this. Just think about this for a second and think about I use mild words often on my channel. Think of the unusual nature. I was thinking of the word idiotic nature, but then you didn't hear me say idiotic. You heard me say unusual. So think of the unusual nature of the negotiations where one side tries to pass a standalone airlines aid package, the other side objects, and then 3 days later, the other side comes back and says, let's do this. And by the way, this is 24 hours after the president calls off stimulus negotiations. So you can see that this is highly unusual, for lack of a better word, and a standalone deal on the airlines is not going to help the millions of our fellow Americans who need help. And both sides, I want to be clear, have expressed openness to a standalone airlines package. That's where things stand. And now let's get into why everyone's talking about airline aid. On your screen, you'll see an article from the Philadelphia Inquirer, which announces that hundreds of American Airlines flight attendants are losing jobs at Philadelphia International Airport. Now, if you paid close attention to the debate, to the first presidential debate, the president specifically said that he wants poll watchers in Philadelphia. He said, go there and in Pennsylvania, make sure that you're watching the polls to make sure that everything's fair. Pennsylvania is a very, very important state for the 2020 election. It has 20 electoral votes, and Pennsylvania did go President Trump's way. And it is important, it's crucial for the president to win Pennsylvania and Florida. The president is not going to win re-election without Pennsylvania and Florida. And I think most individuals who are looking closely at the race will agree. So Pennsylvania is a very important state, and job losses in Pennsylvania do affect President Trump's re-election efforts. So what's going on here is for months, let's get back to the article. For months, major airlines have warned that they would have to lay off thousands of workers when funding from the stimulus bill ran out in September. Now that process is underway for 1,200 Philadelphia-based employees of American Airlines, which is the dominant airline in Philadelphia. So that's what's happening right now. In fact, let's take a look at passenger volume at Philadelphia International Airport. And on your screen, you'll see the passenger volume at Philadelphia International Airport. The lighter color corresponds to 2019. And I'll show you the darker color in just a second. That actually corresponds to 2020. You'll start to see the differences between 2019 and 2020 on your screen. And again, this is the effect of the pandemic on volume, on the passenger volume at Philadelphia International Airport in 2020. It has dropped sharply, as you can see. You can see that the trend was up in January and at the start of the year. But in March, April, it just sort of collapsed. And things are starting to come back, but there's a significant difference. We're talking about a 71% drop compared to last year. So in August, for example, in August of 2019, you had 3.18 million people. That was the passenger volume at Philadelphia International Airport. And now it's less than 1 million people in August of 2020. So this gives you a sense of how passenger volume has dropped at Philadelphia International Airport. And speaking of Pennsylvania, let's see how Pennsylvania has done in recent years as far as the presidential election goes. On your screen, you'll see that in the year 2000, in 2004, in 2008, and in 2012, Pennsylvania went blue. Pennsylvania went the Democrats' way. In 2016, President Trump won Pennsylvania. And this was a shock for the Clinton campaign. But hey, President Trump won Pennsylvania in 2016. And now, and this is where things get really interesting, I want you to take a look on your screen at the polls that are being conducted for the state of Pennsylvania. And there are several polls being conducted. Now, polls can be wrong, but these are several polls being conducted. And I want you to see for yourself who is leading in the state of Pennsylvania across several polls that are being conducted across the state of Pennsylvania, including a Fox News poll. Okay, so see for yourself who is leading right now and you can see for yourself by the margin by which former Vice President Joe Biden is actually leading President Trump in Pennsylvania, which is why Pennsylvania is such an important state for the 2020 election. So as you can see, this is all tied to the election. By the way, if you want me to cover some of the swing states, the Electoral College, and how everything that's going on in Washington, D.C., all the news that's coming out, all the stimulus talks, all the airline bailouts, negotiations, how they are tied back to the actual election. Let me know if you want me to connect the dots for you. Let me know. I'm a nerd. I look into all this. So if that is something you want, let me know in the comment section below. And I'll be happy to do that in a little bit more detail on our channel. But this is a tweet on your screen from Neil Irwin, who's a senior economics correspondent for the New York Times. And I think Neil was very astute when he pointed out that President Trump walking away from the stimulus negotiations makes it more likely that more and more airlines, and I already showed you airlines in Pennsylvania, more and more airlines will follow through with large scale layoffs. In fact, this is happening in Arizona as well. I'll talk to you about Arizona in just a second. And 13 of the 20 most heavily trafficked US airports are in swing states. States like Texas, states like Florida, states like Pennsylvania, and to a lesser extent, states like Arizona. Arizona wasn't traditionally considered a swing state, but that is the world we live in right now. So again, you'll see this list on your screen. This shows you the 20 most heavily trafficked airports across the country, and I already gave you an idea of how passenger volume had dropped significantly at Philadelphia International Airport. And 13 out of the 20 airports are in swing states. So this actually gives you an indication of why they're focusing on airline relief. So it's almost like they are doing stimulus negotiations, but it's not what we think. It's not what we want. It's in a sense, the stimulus negotiations are continuing, but for the airlines, this is tragic. It is the hypocrisy of the system. And please don't blame the messenger. I'm simply reporting what's happening. And this is indeed what is happening in DC. I want you to understand what is happening and why it is happening so you can make a decision when you make your voice heard on November 3rd. In fact, on your screen, you'll see what's happening in the state of Arizona. And this is what is interesting in Arizona. As you can see, Arizona has been consistently red. Arizona has been a Republican state consistently since 2000. So all the elections since the year 2000, 2004, 2008, 2012, and President Trump winning Arizona, all of those elections consistently went the Republicans' way. But now, and this is probably going to be a cause for concern for the Republicans, specifically for President Trump, especially because jobs are now being lost in the airline industry in the state of Arizona. You see in the state of Arizona, and you see this article on your screen, hundreds of Arizona airline workers are being hit by nationwide layoffs. So Phoenix Airport is another major hub. In fact, it's a hub for a lot of connecting flights nationally as well as internationally. Phoenix is seeing a lot of job layoffs. And in the state of Arizona, let's now take a look at polls in the state of Arizona, polls nationwide across CNN, CNBC, including Fox News. And let's take a look at who's leading in the polls in Arizona at the moment. Now, let me be clear. Polls can be wrong. In fact, they were wrong in 2016. But, you know, this is what we have to go on right now. And you can see for yourself that former Vice President Joe Biden is actually leading in Arizona at the moment, which makes Arizona a swing state at the moment, which is why this is such an important conversation for us to have right now. The fact that airline workers are being laid off, and this is an important calculus, if you will, for the administration. That's it, everybody. So in a sense, stimulus negotiations are continuing, but it's not what we think. If you ever struggle to understand why is the administration focusing more on airlines, why are the Democrats focusing more on airlines as opposed to, and this breaks my heart to report this, as opposed to stimulus checks, $1,200 stimulus checks, as opposed to the $600 or $400 a week unemployment benefits, we'll take it at this point, as opposed to the Paycheck Protection Program, as opposed to aid for schools, as opposed to aid for our heroes, aid for our first responders. I mean, this is where things stand right now, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I hope you learned something new from this video. If you want me to do more videos that connect the dots between what's going on in Washington, D.C. with what their final political calculus is, let me know. I'll be happy to report that to you. You folks are like my family right now. Your vote of confidence in me is you clicking the subscribe button, you enabling notifications. If you decide to do that, that's your vote of confidence in me and my team. So please subscribe. Please enable notifications. Please click the like button if you learned something new in this video. If this was an aha moment for you that former Vice President Joe Biden is leading in the polls in important swing states, then please click the like button. If you learned something new about why Airline Aid is so important for the political calculus going into the next 30 days, then please click the like button. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video. I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living the American dream. I want to help you live your American dream. We release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. That's 2 p.m. East Coast time. You can get your cell phone out, send a text message with the word ignition or the word time to 70,000. That's 70000. And then you'll get added to SMS alerts list. You can also get added to our email list. What you can do is go to ignitiontime.com/alerts and you can get on our email list. You can opt out of the SMS or email list at any point in time. No worries about that. Sometimes YouTube does not send out notifications. So all you have to do is pretty simple. Just go to youtube.com/ignitiontime and bookmark that in your browser and then come back to our homepage once a day whenever you want, and then you can watch our videos at your convenience. You're not dependent on YouTube notifications. Follow us on Instagram. We release exclusive content specifically for our Instagram followers. Ignition_time is our Instagram handle. Also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is ignition_time as well. Follow us on Twitter. We're looking forward to seeing you soon in the next episode of Ignition Time. Once again, we release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. That's your vote of confidence in me and my team. All the work that goes into researching this data, all the work that goes into recording these videos, all the work that goes into providing you all our links, all our sources in the description section below. By the way, check out the description section below. You'll see all the links to all the resources that we use. We do that for every single video. That's our normal protocol. And all the editing work that goes into these videos to provide you with important information, balanced information, transparent information as quickly as we can get it to you. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.